Hi. So happy New Year. Here we are, 2022. Welcome. I was just ready to get out of 2021. I don't know about anybody else, but I was done with it. It used me up. That's for sure. So I pray that you all had a great Christmas, that your holidays were wonderful and filled with love and joy. I know the holidays can be hard for some people. And I just hope that there were people around you that did bring you some joy. Amongst the sadness that sometimes the holidays brings as well. Anyway, we're into a new year, 5 days in. Today is the 5th, January 2022. And we are gearing up for gardens, making some bigger, changing up some things, trying some new things. So I just want to talk about a couple of things. So we have a couple of seed sources that we fell into. It wasn't like it was something that we knew about. I follow a lot of people on YouTube that are doing homesteading. And in homesteading and prepping are two different things. Homesteading is just becoming more self-sufficient, more self-reliant, growing some of your own things, becoming less of a consumer and more of a producer of your own means, your own needs. So the last video that I just posted, it was actually 2 weeks ago that I made it, and I just put it out there on this day, which you probably won't be seeing this until a couple days from now. But we talked about stocking our shelves. We talked about a plan for the garden. So we have now mapped out the garden, the new additions to it, and what are we going to do? What are some of the things that we're going to grow that we didn't do last year? So gardening is not something like I drive by people's, and I don't anymore, but I used to drive by people's gardens and go, wow, they have such an amazing garden. Will I ever be that good of a gardener? Yep, that's the answer. Yes, you will. I'm not there yet. I still drive by their gardens and get a little envious of how planned they looked or how neat they look or all the stuff growing in them. We just had a frost a couple days ago, and I went out and picked everything that was on what was left of our basically summer plants. I planted some fall stuff. I planted some purple cabbage and some kohlrabi and just some regular head cabbage, green cabbage. And those survived fine. But what was left of my summer garden essentially is gone. So that's okay. I'm taking all those plants that wilted and looked terrible, and I'm just going to pull them up and throw them on top of the garden and let them just finish doing their thing before we get into summer. We still have, I probably won't start planting until March, maybe some stuff in late February, just depending on how the weather goes. But I want to talk about some self-sufficiency and how we can all become a little more self-sustaining, where we're not the consumer of everything that we get. It's so easy to go to the grocery store and get what you need, and that is quickly changing. It's getting harder and harder to get what you want. Right now, it's simple supplies like, Nilla wafers and graham cracker crumbs, which I still can't find. But I have a lot of people that show me pictures or tell me stories about them going to the store, even the big box stores like Walmart, and the shelves are bare in some places. So moving into a direction where you can become more of a producer of your own goods may start with stocking your shelves with things that are at the grocery store. There's nothing wrong with that. I have cans. I have food that I've added to my pantry that is produced by someone else. Big companies, peanut butter and tuna and things that I can't do myself. So there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's good practice if you are just going to stock up on that. Do that. But what's the end goal? What's your long-term goal? What does that look like for you? For us, it's much more advanced, I think, than we would have ever dreamed that it was going to be. But that's because we've been practicing for several years. Playing in the garden. My garden went from 2 small raised beds 3 summers ago to 4 raised beds, a bean trellis, which I fell in love with, which has 2 growing spaces, and then an in-ground garden as well by year 3. It was a very successful garden. I have said repeatedly that I believe gardens grow on neglect and weeds. That's what they do at my house. So I'm not a great gardener. I'm no expert by any means. I'm sorry. We both have had this virus that is just lingering now. Like, we feel fine and we're back to work and we're doing our thing, but it's definitely still lingering. So back to the garden. So this year, it's going to be another expansion to the in-ground garden. That's the goal. What am I going to put in there? I don't know yet. Last year, I didn't grow any root vegetables. I tried some potatoes, not successful. I put them in a low spot. So these are things that you learn as you go. And maybe somebody has, some people that are guiding them, but I typically don't. I just go. So I planted some potatoes that I actually rooted from potatoes that I bought at the farmer's market. I left them on the counter for several months. They developed eyes. I put them in the ground. They sprouted. I got potatoes, y'all, but they were like, this big. So that's one of my goals this year, is to grow some decent sized potatoes. And I'm not even worried about quantity right now. Right now, I'm just worried about quality. I'd rather grow a few things that are great and learn the practice than to not grow them at all or grow a huge amount of potatoes this big. Tomatoes were a huge success this year. Some of that was location. The year prior, we didn't have a great tomato year. We had a much better cucumber year last year. And I'm talking 2020, than we did this year. But tomato-wise, we moved to the in-ground garden, full sun, and they loved it. So we planted, I think, 26 plants, and I just picked the last growing tomatoes off of those plants a couple days ago before the freeze. So that they did stop producing for a little while, and then when the weather changed and got cooler, they just started growing again, and I was super happy about it. So again, neglect. Some people clear their gardens out. I did not. I just said, you know what? I'm not messing with that. It's too weedy. It's too much work. It's hot outside. Anyway, and that paid off. So when I went out and started cleaning the garden out, I realized that I had a bunch of plants that were blooming and flowering again. So I gave them some TLC, and they produced for me. Okay, so living in a small space. Let's say you live in an apartment. Your growing options are going to be, of course, less. You're going to have less options of growing. But there are pot varieties of tomatoes that grow really well. And I don't have a list of them right now, but I can start looking into that too. So when I'm sharing information, I'm giving you full information, not just, hey, you can do this. But there are patio varieties that you can grow. Cucumbers can grow in a container. Squash can grow in a container, one squash at a time. I tried multiples. Don't do that. It doesn't work. They fight too much. But though, if those are things that you can do, and I don't know what your space looks like, but again, if you live in an apartment, maybe you find a growing source. So a local farmer's market. We do a lot of our farmer's market is at Delorio's farm in Hempstead. Those guys put out some massive quantities of food, and they're fresh and they're nice and I like them. I buy a lot of my plants from them, my plant starts as well. So look around you, find a farmer's market. Sometimes there's the co-op farmer's markets, so to speak. I don't know what the actual name of them is, but where a group of people get together and they set up in a parking lot, or they host an event and they do it on the weekends. So there's that. Or just like put things out there on, what's the name of that app? Nextdoor. Like maybe if you did a Nextdoor app, you could find out where people are buying fresh produce from. And here's the other thing, you can buy from the store. Stores have pretty good produce still. The prices are going up. And this is the concern for us this year, is not necessarily the availability of the produce or meat or whatever it is you're looking for, the food, but more of cost. So the cost has gone up pretty significantly. Maybe you don't see it, and that's great if you don't, but it has. There's no denying it. I'm not going to give you anything specific right now because I don't have it written down. And if I don't have it written down, I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to misquote on some things. But I know that my grocery bill has been higher, buying some of the same things. So I just want us to become less dependent on the big box stores and more dependent on ourselves. And that is the goal for our house, for our family. How do we grow more? I don't think we need more tomatoes, but how do we grow more tomatoes? How do we get more cucumbers? So, like in 2021, we were able to can up quite a few pickles. I love pickles. My family loves pickles. We did jalapeno peppers. We did potatoes. Potatoes are one of the easiest things on the planet. And again, you can buy at the grocery store. And I don't know that I would can from the grocery store, but you can buy a bulk at the farmer's market. And that's what we did for potatoes, was we bought them because I had a terrible year. So the other things that you can do are look for local meat sources. So I don't personally use Butcher Box, but I have heard that is good quality meat. We grow our own beef, and hopefully we can continue to do that. We will be, in fact, I'm taking my dad with me to the auction soon, and we're going to go buy some pigs. So we'll see how he likes that. But he is committed to going with me. So that's a couple weeks out. And hopefully I'll have my camera ready and I'll take y'all with me to the auction. And you can watch us as we learn how to purchase our pigs. So it should be fun. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to that. But that's something that we're going to do this year is pigs. And we have done them in the past. We just did 3 pigs, and they're pretty easy. The hardest part was keeping them in enough water in the middle of the summer. That's the truest story. That was the hardest part for us. But as far as feeding them, they're relatively inexpensive to feed out. And the processing was reasonable. And we will learn how to process our own. In fact, I've already been doing some studying on that. I don't think we're ready for it with this round of pigs, but just know that we're moving in that direction too, where it's all about being the producer and not the consumer, all the way down to the butcher. So anything that you can do for yourself doesn't cost you money. Now, in doing that, more time is spent and invested into preparing for harvest time, whether it's meat, produce, fruit, whatever it is that you're going to harvest. More time is spent invested in that. But once you put that, like, so let's just say we had 2 pigs that we put in the freezer. That was more than enough meat for Chris and I. And of course, we supplied our children with some, my parents, and some other family members as well. So you're going to invest on the front side, but on the back side, you're going to have, I'm not going to call it a skate time, but less. You don't have to go to the grocery store. You can shop from your freezer. Gunner is chewing on my wall. He got introduced to the goats the other day, y'all. He was very sweet. He gave the baby goats kisses, not the new babies, but the older babies. Gave them kisses, and then he got headbutted by our oldest goat, Elsa. She just cracked him right through the fence. I didn't even see it coming. It was just that quick. He was fine. He didn't get injured, but he shook his head a little bit and stayed away. My conversation really, I want it to look more like, what do you want to do to be more self-sufficient? What area do you want to be more self-sufficient? Do you want to have less medication to deal with? Because that is a whole big topic in and of itself. If I don't want to worry about my meds, then I have to get whatever's going on with me physically under control. So high blood pressure. There are high blood pressures that have no etiology. There's no place that they come from. It's just a naturally occurring thing that just they don't know. So eating better may not be the answer. Drinking more fluids may not be the answer. It's just, but figuring out what the source of your disease processes are. So, losing weight. That's one of my goals for the year. And I've actually done quite well over the last few months being home, eating more from home, eating fresher foods, staying away from fast food, has all been super helpful. So little things like that do help. But that helps get your disease processes under control. The other thing that you can grow in an apartment is herbs. Herbs grow well inside. Oregano grows well inside. Very good for you. Basil grows very good inside. What else do I grow in here sometimes? Most of my stuff gets grown outside. I will start them in here, but just things like that. What are the herbs that look good? So turmeric is super good for you, right? It's good for your blood pressure, to the point that you should be careful and you should not use it if you have high blood pressure without talking to your physician, because it can be super effective. And then you pile medications on top of it, and it can be overly effective, and you can go the opposite direction. So I'm not here to give you medical advice. I can't do that. As a nurse, it would not be prudent for me to give you medical advice. I can tell you things that I do. I can tell you where to seek information, but I'm always going to refer you back to your physician for that stuff. But if that's one of the areas that you wanted to become a producer and not a consumer, then that's where you start. I have a small space. I have high blood pressure. I'm going to look at using some natural remedies for that. Simple. That's your first start. That's your first base. And then you grow from there. Not everybody has a piece of land that they can park something on to grow as far as a meat source. There are places that will lease out their land for you to graze your cattle on. So you're not locked in a box. I know it feels like it, and it's not something that you would know unless you went and sought it out, or you sought out people that were doing those things. So one of the big things that we're going to do this year is I'm going to look at So I bought a grain miller for my KitchenAid. Yes, I know it's power. And if we don't have power, then I'll have to learn how to do it by hand. But that's where I started. I bought it over a year ago. Guess how many times I've used it? Not once. Because it's easy to go to the store and buy flour or wheat products that you can break down and do it yourself. And then you don't have to do it yourself, I guess is more what I meant. So one of our things is learning to do that. Buying products in bulk. And I did say that in the last video. I have recently joined Azure Standard. I have not bought anything yet from there, but I hear great things from them. And wheat berries is on my list so that I can learn to do that. Sourdough starting because yeast is something that you buy at the store right now, but if you have a sourdough starter, you have bread whenever you want it. I have some good contacts, and I'm going to practice, and I'll show you as I go too. And I guess that's really it for today. I don't want to ramble too much and bore you, but at the same time, I really want to get your mind going. Now, I've noticed recently that no one can comment on my videos, which could be a good thing. But if you want to communicate with me, I upload to YouTube and then I copy the link to our Total Rick Ranch page on Facebook. You can leave me comments there. I am working on figuring that out. I am not a high-tech person. I'm not. I don't even want to be. That's just not my thing. Now, I know technology. I can figure things out, and I will. It's just going to take me longer than, say my 3-year-old granddaughter who could probably figure it out faster. Anyway, I hope that you continue to have a blessed year. I really want to engage with y'all on this. I want to know what you want to see. Do you want to see me planting? Do you want to see what I'm planting? Do you want to see how I'm planting? Do you want to watch a canning session? And what do you want to can? I'm going to tell you this right now. One of the easiest things you can can, and you have to have a pressure canner for this, is chicken. And when I tell you, I was so scared when I did it the first time. I thought this is the weirdest thing ever. Who cans meat? But we just bought chicken breast at the store. We cut it into 1-inch cubes, shoved it into a jar, seasoned it with salt and garlic powder, and pressure canned it. It makes its own juices. If you've ever eaten chicken from the store in a can, which a lot of people use, and I have in the past, for making just for chicken salads, I would buy it just for that. But so much better. So much better. It's an easy process. I'm going to get ready to do some here pretty quick. I need to get my pressure canner. I need to get my camp stove moved to a better location, which hopefully we will work on this weekend because I'm ready to start canning some stuff. It's winter time. There's nothing growing in the garden. What better time to can what's in your freezer? So, as you saw yesterday, my post, I actually pulled all of the tomatoes out of the freezer. I put them in my big electric roaster. And about 7:30, 8 o'clock last night, when I went back to check on them, my roaster was not hot anymore. I don't know what happened. I didn't have time to figure it out. So I turned the oven on to 170 degrees and popped them in there. And they sat there overnight. I've since increased them to 200, but I'm getting ready to can just a bunch of tomato sauce. Just straight up tomato sauce. No specialty stuff, no freak out stuff, just tomato sauce. Because it's easy and I need to do something with those. Doing that one step, y'all, makes me so much more ready for the upcoming season. I've never canned tomatoes before. So doing it will give me the confidence that I need to literally just say, okay, this weekend I'm going to can up the however many tomatoes we have. Because it's easy. I will get into some more specialty stuff like pizza sauce and spaghetti sauce and all that later on. That's not even relevant. I can make those things from tomato sauce. So, You understand how the process works? It's just one baby step at a time. And that's what I want you to focus on going into 2022. One step at a time to become less of a consumer and more of a producer. And with that, I'm going to leave you. Have a great day.